February is the month that most of us can start sowing, which is also the case for me here in Zone 8. So today I'll be showing you what seeds I have chosen. Not only that, but as you can see, I have some leafy greens over here. This is pak choi and Chinese cabbage, which I have sown in October last year, which have germinated and overwintered on a windowsill back at home. And today it's time to plant them out in the grow dome. I'll be planting these directly underneath my reflective wall so that they get exposed to more light and to more warmth. Now, these can tolerate some cold, even some frost. However, I do believe that the soil in my grow beds will stay warm enough to keep the roots frost-free. Alright, that's that. These are in the ground and they will grow nicely in the coming weeks. I'm also planting garlic cloves. Now you might be thinking, well, shouldn't you be planting garlic in September, October, November? Yes, if you want to have full bulbs around the summer solstice, then you should plant them in those months. However, you can also choose to harvest them earlier, say in summer, and then you can use them the same way you would use spring onions. Lastly, a good splash of water, and then I'll be going home to sow some seeds. Alright, onto some seed sowing. Now before I continue, I just wanted to mention that it's really useful to start your seeds off in these mini greenhouses, especially in the colder months at the beginning of the year. These commercial ones can be somewhat expensive, so if you don't want to spend too much money, you can of course use these little plastic boxes that you get when buying your mushrooms or your grapes. And then you can fill those boxes up with some potting soil and sow your seeds in that, and they will act as a mini greenhouse. So the first seeds I'll be sowing are from the nightshade family. The nightshade family is of course well known for a lot of different crops such as peppers, bell peppers, tomatoes, but also aubergine and potatoes. Now they are also known to be quite slow germinators and slow growers, and they also prefer a lot of warmth to germinate in the first place, which is why you want to start them off early and indoors, especially in a milder climate such as mine here in Zone 8. Now before you want to sow your seeds in the soil, make sure to dampen the soil a little bit with some water. And I'm going to sprinkle some of these chili pepper seeds here in this little mini greenhouse that I made myself. The same goes for these red bell pepper seeds that I've saved up. Now these seeds are very much alike, so don't forget to label everything before you cover it up and you forget which plant is which. And now I'm going to cover the seeds with a very thin layer of soil, not too much. There we go. And again, I will wet the soil on top as well with some water. Put the lid on top and you have yourself a mini greenhouse. Speaking about the nightshade family, February, March is the time period that you can start chidding your first early potatoes. Now chidding means exposing your potatoes to light so that they will start forming roots, which eventually will give them a head start to the season when it's time to plant them out. Chidding takes about 6 to 8 weeks, so that's why you want to start on time. Alright, on to my next crop, which is going to be two different kinds of onions. One is called the Rijnsburger 5 and the other one is called Sturren. Both are early to mid-early onions, so you can expect to harvest them around July. And they also store very well, apparently. Now, onions are known to have these little black rocky seeds that almost look like little stones, little pebbles. And I'm going to sprinkle them again over one side of my mini greenhouse that I've made. This one is the Sturren one, so I'm going to label it directly. And the other one is going to be Rijnsburger, which sounds very Dutch. And I'm just going to sprinkle them on the other side. Not all of them. Oh, screwed it up. And then I'm going to top it off with a thin layer of potting mix. I'm going to also wetten the top surface a little bit, like so. Now the handy little thing with these grape boxes is that they have a lid that is attached to the box and you can shut them closed like this. Not only that, but the lid has some holes on top, so when the seeds germinate they will at least get some ventilation when the lid is still closed. And finally I'm going to sow some leafy greens because those are actually one of the first crops that you can harvest during the year. I have two different kinds of lettuces. a green one called May Queen and a curly red one called Lola Rossa. I also tried to sow that last year, but all the seedlings got eaten up by slugs, unfortunately. I also have a spinach type which is called Winter Giant, and they actually excel in colder weather and they start bolting when it's too warm. So it's ideal in this time of year. And I'm going to sow all of these in my bigger mini greenhouse. So again, we'll start off by wetting the soil a little bit beforehand, and then we'll continue first with the Lola Rossa seeds. Then second is going to be the May Queen. And finally, I'm going to sow some spinach seeds, which are a lot bigger. There are these lightly colored rocky seeds. And then I'm going to cover everything up with a thin layer of potting soil. They don't need a lot of coverage, just a thin layer. They will be covered and stay moist, but they don't have to chew their way through a couple of centimeters of soil before they can actually see some sunlight. You want to make sure that your seeds stay damp but not too wet, otherwise they might actually rot in the soil. Because the pepper and bell pepper seeds require a lot of warmth to germinate, say 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, I will keep them indoors on a warm windowsill. However, I can place the other two mini greenhouses in the big greenhouse in the garden. There we go. Nice and cozy. So are there any other seeds that you can start off in this time of year? Well, actually there are. You can sow some peas and snap peas. Maybe you want to start them off in pluck trays. And once the seedlings have grown to about 8 centimeters or a few inches, you can put them in the ground, as they can handle quite some cold and even some frost. The same goes for broad beans and field beans. But if your soil is workable, you could also try to direct sow them in your grow beds or in your soil. And the same also goes for radishes. However, in both cases, I would say wait a few more weeks until the weather gets a little bit warmer, and that will just help speeding up the germination and the growth of both of those crops. And finally, you can sow some herbs indoors, such as rosemary, sage, or thyme. Once the weather gets a little bit warmer and the seedlings have grown a bit, you can plant them out in the garden. Now, if you're feeling a little bit anxious that everybody around you has started sowing, don't worry. Anything that I have shown you today can also be sown into March and even into the beginning of April, bar maybe the garlic. Thank you so much for staying till the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, then please leave a like. And if you're worried that your fresh seedlings might be subject to an early slug attack, then I have a video for you on how to combat slugs and snails, and you can watch that right over here. Once again, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!